The homeless woman who disarmed 10 armed men. General's tearful recognition. General Martinez barely noticed the ragged woman sitting by the military base entrance, just another vagrant seeking shelter. But when she stood up with fluid precision and said, "Colonel Martinez, remember Kabul marketplace?" his heart stopped. Master Sergeant Elena "Ghost" Vásquez, the Special Forces operative who had single-handedly neutralized 10 armed terrorists to save his unit 12 years ago, was standing before him as a homeless stranger. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly on Fort Campbell's main entrance as General Roberto Martinez hurried toward his vehicle after a lengthy Pentagon briefing. His mind was occupied with budget reports and personnel evaluations when he noticed the familiar scene unfolding at the security checkpoint. A disheveled woman sat against the fence, her weathered hands wrapped around a paper cup, while 2 MPs stood nearby discussing protocol for dealing with homeless individuals near military installations. General Martinez had witnessed this scenario countless times throughout his distinguished career. Veterans struggling with PTSD, families displaced by economic hardship, confused civilians seeking help from the only institution they trusted. The military police handled these situations with professional compassion, but security protocols required maintaining clear boundaries between authorized personnel and civilian populations. "Ma'am, I understand you're looking for assistance, but this is a restricted area," Staff Sergeant Johnson explained patiently. "There are civilian organizations in town that specialize in homeless services and can provide the help you need." The woman remained seated, but something about her posture caught General Martinez's attention. Despite her obviously difficult circumstances, torn clothing, unkempt appearance, and the general look of someone who had been surviving on the streets, her positioning was strategically defensive. She maintained visual contact with multiple exit routes, kept her back protected against the fence, and her hands remained visible, but ready for action. General Martinez had spent decades identifying military training in both active personnel and veterans. Certain habits never disappeared: tactical awareness, threat assessment, efficient movement patterns, and instinctive positioning for maximum security. This woman displayed every indicator of advanced combat training despite her current circumstances. "Sergeant Johnson, what's the situation?" General Martinez asked as he approached the checkpoint. "Sir, this individual has been here for approximately 30 minutes requesting access to speak with senior personnel. She doesn't possess proper identification or authorization, and we're following standard procedure to redirect her to appropriate civilian resources." General Martinez was preparing to acknowledge the MP's professional handling when the woman slowly stood up, her movement revealing the kind of controlled precision that distinguished special operations personnel from conventional military training. When she turned to face him directly, General Martinez felt his world shift in ways that defied logical explanation. Those were the same steel-gray eyes that had locked onto his through smoke and chaos in an Afghan marketplace 12 years ago. The same unwavering, calculating gaze that had remained focused while engaging multiple armed hostiles to protect his reconnaissance unit during a mission that had gone catastrophically wrong. The same eyes that belonged to the operator who had saved his life and the lives of 8 other soldiers during an ambush that should have killed everyone involved. "Colonel Martinez, remember Kabul marketplace? 10 hostiles, 0 friendly casualties?" The voice hit him like a physical impact. It was rougher now, marked by years of hardship and struggle, but unmistakably familiar. General Martinez felt his composure shatter as memories flooded back with devastating clarity. Master Sergeant Elena "Ghost" Vásquez had been the most lethal close-quarters combat specialist he'd ever served alongside, a woman whose tactical skills bordered on supernatural and whose ability to neutralize threats had become legendary among special operations units. She had been his teammate, his trusted operator, and ultimately his savior during a mission that had tested every survival skill they possessed. But the woman standing before him bore only a passing resemblance to the elite warrior he remembered. Elena's once pristine combat gear had been replaced by donated civilian clothes that hung loose on her obviously malnourished frame. Her hair, which she had always maintained in regulation military standards, now showed signs of neglect and poor nutrition. Most shocking of all, the confidence and deadly precision that had once defined her operational bearing seemed to have been replaced by something that looked disturbingly like resignation. "Elena," General Martinez whispered, his voice barely audible. "My God, what happened to you?" The MPs exchanged concerned glances, recognizing that their commanding officer knew this individual, but uncertain about proper protocol for the situation that had clearly moved beyond routine homeless assistance. "Sergeant Johnson, I'll handle this personally," General Martinez said, his voice regaining authority despite his emotional state. "Please ensure we have complete privacy for this conversation." "Yes, sir." "Should I notify anyone about this development?" "Not yet. Give me time to understand what's happening here." General Martinez led Elena to his private office, the weight of recognition settling heavily on both their shoulders. As they walked through the corridors of the administrative building, Martinez's mind raced with questions about how one of the most decorated special operations soldiers he'd ever known had ended up homeless and desperate at his base gate. The walk to his office gave General Martinez precious moments to process what he was witnessing and attempt to reconcile the Master Sergeant Elena Vásquez he remembered with the woman walking beside him. Each step brought back fragments of memories from their deployment together, pieces of a puzzle that had shaped both their careers in ways neither could have anticipated. 12 years ago, Master Sergeant Elena Vásquez had been one of the most respected special operations personnel in the Army. Her call sign, Ghost, had been earned through her ability to move through hostile territory undetected and neutralize threats with surgical precision that left no trace of her presence. She had conducted infiltration missions that other operators considered impossible, eliminated high-value targets in circumstances where conventional approaches would have failed, and extracted intelligence from situations where survival seemed impossible. Her reputation within special operations circles bordered on mythical, and her tactical innovations had been incorporated into training programs across multiple military branches. More personally, she had been General Martinez's most trusted operator during his deployment as a colonel commanding a special reconnaissance unit. They had served together in the most dangerous assignments, shared the same risks, and developed the kind of professional bond that forms between soldiers who depend on each other for survival in life-or-death situations. Once seated in his office, surrounded by the trappings of his successful career, General Martinez gestured for Elena to take a seat across from his desk. The contrast between his comfortable office and her obvious destitution was stark and painful. "Elena, before we talk about your current situation, I need you to know that I've never forgotten what you did for us in Kabul. That mission changed everything for me." Elena's expression softened slightly, revealing glimpses of the warrior he remembered beneath the hardship etched on her face. "Roberto, that mission changed everything for both of us, just in different ways." The mission that had cemented their relationship and ultimately changed both their lives had occurred during the final month of their deployment in Afghanistan. Colonel Martinez's reconnaissance team had been conducting surveillance on a suspected weapons cache in a Kabul marketplace when intelligence reports indicated an imminent terrorist attack on civilian targets. It had started as a routine intelligence gathering operation. Martinez's 8-man team had been positioned in overwatch positions around the bustling marketplace, documenting movement patterns and identifying key personnel associated with weapons trafficking networks. The mission parameters were clear: observe, record, report. No direct engagement unless absolutely necessary for team survival. But intelligence intercepts had suddenly indicated that 10 heavily armed terrorists were preparing to execute a coordinated attack on the crowded marketplace filled with innocent civilians. The intercepted communications revealed a planned massacre designed to kill as many civilians as possible while maximizing media coverage and psychological impact. "I remember the moment when those intercepts came through," Martinez said, his voice distant with memory. "We went from passive surveillance to realizing we were watching the setup for a mass casualty event." Elena nodded grimly. The intelligence was specific: 10 operatives, each carrying automatic weapons and suicide vests. They had positioned themselves throughout the marketplace to maximize casualties and prevent escape routes. Estimated civilian count was over 300 people. Standard protocol required calling for backup and waiting for a full tactical response team, but time constraints made conventional rescue operations impossible. The attack was scheduled to begin within minutes, and civilian casualties would be catastrophic if immediate action wasn't taken. The nearest military response unit was 45 minutes away. Air support was unavailable due to weather conditions and airspace restrictions. Local Afghan security forces were compromised and couldn't be trusted with operational details. Martinez's reconnaissance team was equipped for surveillance, not direct action against multiple heavily armed hostiles. "We were 8 soldiers with basic combat loads, watching 10 suicide bombers prepare to slaughter hundreds of innocent people," Martinez continued. By every tactical assessment, we didn't have the capability to stop what was about to happen. Master Sergeant Elena Vásquez had studied the tactical situation with the calculating precision that had made her legendary within special operations circles. 10 hostiles positioned strategically throughout a crowded marketplace, each armed with automatic weapons and explosive devices, prepared to execute a coordinated attack designed to maximize civilian casualties. "I remember your assessment," Elena said quietly. "You calculated that even if we engaged with everything we had, we might neutralize 3 or 4 targets before the rest executed their attack. The civilian casualties would still be catastrophic. That's when you volunteered for what should have been a suicide mission." Elena had proposed a solo intervention that violated every safety protocol and tactical doctrine in the Special Operations Handbook, engaging 10 armed hostiles alone to prevent civilian casualties while protecting her own unit from discovery and maintaining operational security. "This is Ghost requesting permission to engage multiple hostiles," Elena had radioed to Martinez that day. 10 confirmed terrorists preparing to attack civilian targets. "I can neutralize the threat." Martinez remembered his response with crystal clarity. "Negative, Ghost. You're outnumbered 10 to 1. Wait for backup and air support." "Sir, civilians will die if we wait. I'm going in now." Elena had moved through the crowded marketplace like a deadly phantom, using the chaos and confusion of civilian activity to mask her approach while systematically eliminating threats with precision that seemed impossible under the circumstances. Her tactical approach had been a masterpiece of improvised warfare, utilizing environmental advantages, misdirection, and superior combat skills to turn a hopeless situation into a surgical operation. "Tell me exactly what you remember about the engagement," Martinez said. "I need to understand how you accomplished what you did that day." Elena's expression became focused, her tactical mind engaging with the memory in ways that revealed glimpses of the operator she had once been. The key was understanding that conventional engagement would fail. 10 armed hostiles in prepared positions meant that any direct assault would result in civilian casualties regardless of the tactical outcome. So you approached it differently. "I treated it as 10 separate engagements rather than one large firefight. Each target had to be neutralized silently and quickly, using the marketplace environment to mask my presence and prevent the remaining hostiles from understanding that they were under attack." Elena had begun her operation by studying the movement patterns of both the terrorists and the civilian population. The marketplace operated with predictable rhythms: vendors arranging goods, customers haggling over prices, children playing between stalls. These patterns provided concealment opportunities and approach routes that a conventional assault could never utilize. Target 1 was positioned near the fruit vendors, using a produce stall as cover while maintaining visual contact with the primary detonation signal. I approached from his blind side during a customer dispute that drew attention away from my movement. The first engagement had required Elena to move through a crowd of shoppers, position herself within striking distance of an armed terrorist, and neutralize him without alerting the remaining 9 hostiles or causing panic among the civilian population. I used a simple chokehold from behind while he was focused on his communication device. He went down silently, and I secured his weapons before anyone noticed. The civilian population continued their normal activities. That's when you reported Target 1 down. Moving to Target 2 required crossing the entire marketplace while carrying the first terrorist's weapon and maintaining the appearance of a casual shopper. Target 2 was positioned near the meat market, using the crowd flow as concealment. Each subsequent engagement had required Elena to adapt her approach based on changing circumstances, available concealment, and the positioning of remaining hostiles. The terrorists had been trained to watch for conventional military threats, but they hadn't anticipated a single operator moving through civilian populations with the skills to blend seamlessly into marketplace activities. Targets 3 and 4 were positioned together near the textile vendors. They were communicating with each other regularly, which meant I had to neutralize both simultaneously to prevent either from alerting the remaining hostiles. "How did you manage a double engagement in a crowded marketplace?" "I used a vendor's card as improvised concealment and struck during a moment when both targets were distracted by a staged argument between 2 civilians. Quick succession, both down before either could react or signal." Elena had continued this pattern for all 10 targets, using superior situational awareness, tactical innovation, and combat skills that exceeded anything in conventional military training. Each engagement had required split-second decision-making under conditions where a single mistake would have resulted in massive civilian casualties. The final target was the most dangerous because by then, some of the terrorists were beginning to notice that their communication network was going silent. He was positioned near the main entrance, which gave him the best overview of the entire marketplace. That's when you used the vendor's cooking fire. I created a distraction by accidentally knocking over a spice cart, which caused a small commotion near the cooking area. While he was distracted by the activity, I approached from his blind side and engaged him with the same silent techniques I'd used on the others. The entire operation had taken 8 minutes and 12 seconds. 10 heavily armed terrorists neutralized with 0 civilian casualties, 0 friendly casualties, and minimal disruption to normal marketplace activities. Most of the civilian population never realized that a potential massacre had been prevented. All targets neutralized, Elena had reported with characteristic calm. Area secure. Civilian population safe. Martinez remembered his own amazement at what Elena had accomplished. I've never seen anything like it before or since. It was the most extraordinary display of tactical skill and courage I've witnessed in 30 years of military service. Elena's expression grew somber. It was also the beginning of the end of my military career. The silence in General Martinez's office stretched for several moments, as both soldiers contemplated the irony of Elena's situation. The mission that should have been the crowning achievement of her military career had instead become the catalyst for its destruction. Elena, I need to understand exactly what happened after we returned from deployment, Martinez said carefully. The Elena Vásquez I knew was on track for promotion to Sergeant Major and assignment to the most prestigious special operations units in the military. How did preventing a massacre lead to your discharge? Elena's expression hardened, revealing the bitterness and frustration that had accumulated over years of fighting bureaucratic battles she couldn't win. Roberto, you have to understand that the military you and I served in during wartime was different from the military that existed during the drawdown. Different priorities, different leadership, different tolerance for the kind of operations we conducted. The post-combat investigation had begun 6 months after their return from Afghanistan, initiated by Pentagon officials who were reviewing controversial operations for compliance with evolving rules of engagement and international law. The Kabul marketplace incident had been flagged for review because of the high number of enemy casualties achieved by a single operator without conventional authorization procedures. The investigating officers had never served in combat, Elena continued. They evaluated my actions based on peacetime protocols and current political sensitivities rather than the tactical realities we faced that day. General Martinez understood the broader context Elena was describing. The military had undergone significant changes during the transition from active combat operations to peacetime status. Operations that had been considered heroic during wartime were being re-evaluated through different lenses, with greater emphasis on policy compliance than mission success. What specific charges did you face? Excessive use of force, failure to follow proper authorization procedures, and violation of rules of engagement. The investigators determined that I had acted without proper command authority and had used lethal force in ways that exceeded authorized parameters for our reconnaissance mission. The absurdity of the charges was obvious to anyone who understood the tactical situation Elena had faced. She had prevented a terrorist massacre by using precisely the skills and training the military had provided her, but peacetime investigators viewed her actions as problematic rather than heroic. Elena, our mission reports clearly documented the tactical situation and the time constraints that made conventional response impossible. How did the investigators justify their conclusions? They argued that I should have maintained surveillance and reported the terrorist activity through proper channels, even if that meant allowing the attack to proceed. They said that preventing civilian casualties wasn't part of our mission parameters, and that engaging the hostiles exceeded my authority as a subordinate operator. Martinez felt his anger rising as he understood how bureaucratic thinking had been used to punish Elena for saving lives. That's insane. You prevented the murder of hundreds of innocent people. The investigators didn't dispute that civilian lives were saved. They disputed whether I had the authority to save them using the methods I employed. According to their analysis, proper procedure would have been to document the attack as it occurred and file appropriate reports afterward. Elena explained that the investigation had been conducted by officers who had never faced similar tactical decisions and who evaluated her actions based on theoretical protocols rather than practical realities. The investigating panel had included lawyers, policy specialists, and administrative personnel who understood military regulations but had no experience with special operations or combat decision-making. The final report concluded that while my intentions were commendable, my methods were inappropriate, and that my actions set a dangerous precedent for unauthorized use of force in civilian environments. Did you have legal representation during this process? Military legal counsel advised me that fighting the charges would be difficult because the investigators had broad discretionary authority and because the political climate favored strict adherence to policy over operational flexibility. They recommended accepting a plea agreement that would minimize the long-term consequences. Elena's legal team had warned her that a court-martial would likely result in conviction because the technical violations of protocol were undeniable, regardless of the tactical justification for her actions. The military justice system had evolved to prioritize policy compliance over contextual decision-making, making it difficult to defend actions that technically violated procedures, even when those actions achieved positive outcomes. What were your options? Accept a general discharge with reduced benefits, or face a court-martial that could have resulted in conviction, imprisonment, and a dishonorable discharge that would have made civilian employment almost impossible. Elena had chosen the general discharge to avoid the risk of more severe penalties, but this decision had still destroyed her military career and significantly limited her civilian employment opportunities. A general discharge carried stigma within both military and civilian communities, suggesting misconduct or inadequate performance despite Elena's exemplary service record. The discharge paperwork made no mention of the Kabul marketplace or the lives I had saved. It simply stated that my service had been terminated due to violations of military regulations and failure to maintain required standards of conduct. This bureaucratic language had made Elena's military service appear problematic to potential civilian employers who didn't understand the context behind her discharge. Security companies, law enforcement agencies, and other organizations that typically hired former military personnel were reluctant to employ someone whose service record suggested disciplinary problems.
Roberto, I spent 2 years trying to explain to potential employers that I had been discharged for saving lives rather than for misconduct, but most civilian hiring managers don't understand military politics or the circumstances that can destroy good soldiers' careers. Elena's transition to civilian employment had been further complicated by the specialized nature of her military training.
Her skills in close-quarters combat, tactical planning, and special operations were highly valuable in combat situations, but had limited applications in civilian security work that emphasized deterrence rather than direct engagement. I found work with private security firms, but most of the positions were entry-level guard duties that didn't utilize my training or provide adequate compensation for someone with my experience and qualifications. The private security industry had been flooded with former military personnel during the post-war drawdown, creating intense competition for the limited number of high-paying positions that required advanced tactical skills. Elena's tainted service record put her at a disadvantage compared to other veterans with clean discharge paperwork. I tried starting my own security consulting business, but that required capital I didn't have, and connections I couldn't develop because of my discharge status. Most potential clients preferred working with firms that had established reputations and personnel with unblemished military records. Elena's business venture had failed after 18 months, leaving her with substantial debt and few remaining options for employment in her field of expertise. The financial stress had contributed to health problems and personal relationships that further complicated her situation. When the business failed, I couldn't make rent or loan payments, lost my apartment, lost my car, lost contact with most of my military friends because I was ashamed of what my life had become. Elena's descent into homelessness had been gradual but relentless. Each setback had made the next challenge more difficult to overcome, creating a spiral of problems that overwhelmed her ability to maintain stability and self-sufficiency. I've been living on the streets for about 2 years, moving from city to city looking for work or assistance. Most veteran services focus on helping people with honorable discharges, and my general discharge makes me ineligible for many programs. General Martinez listened with growing sadness and rage. The woman who had single-handedly prevented a terrorist massacre had been abandoned by the system she had served with extraordinary distinction. Her sacrifice in Kabul had been repaid with bureaucratic betrayal and institutional indifference that had destroyed her life. Elena, why did you come here? Why now? Elena looked directly at Martinez with an expression that mixed desperation with the tactical calculation he remembered from their military service. "Because I heard you were stationed here, and I hoped you would remember what happened in Kabul. I hoped you would understand that I'm not just another homeless veteran asking for charity." "Elena, of course I remember. I remember every detail of that mission and what you did for all of us. Then maybe you can help me get my life back." Martinez realized that Elena's appearance at his base wasn't coincidental or a desperate last resort. It was a carefully calculated decision by someone who understood that her options were limited and her situation was becoming critical. She had sought him out because he was one of the few people who understood her true capabilities and the circumstances that had led to her current situation. "What kind of help do you need?" "I need medical care to address health issues that are making it impossible to maintain employment. I need stable housing while I rebuild my life. Most importantly, I need someone who can vouch for my character and help me access programs that are available to veterans." Elena's request wasn't for charity or sympathy. She was asking for the opportunity to prove that her current circumstances didn't define her capabilities or her worth as a person. She needed someone who understood her true value and who had the influence to help her navigate the bureaucratic systems that had previously failed her. "Elena, there are programs that can help you, but they require commitment to long-term recovery plans and willingness to work within structured support systems. I'm willing to do whatever is necessary. I just need someone to help me get started and to advocate for me when bureaucratic obstacles arise." General Martinez made a decision that would change both their lives. He had the resources, connections, and influence necessary to help Elena access the support she needed. More importantly, he had witnessed her capabilities firsthand and understood that investing in her recovery would yield benefits far beyond simple humanitarian assistance. "Elena, I'm going to help you access every resource that's available to support your recovery. But more than that, I'm going to make sure that people understand who you are and what you've accomplished." Over the following months, General Martinez worked tirelessly to help Elena access the medical care, housing assistance, and vocational rehabilitation programs she desperately needed. But his efforts extended far beyond simple resource coordination. He understood that Elena's recovery required not just material support, but the restoration of her professional reputation and the recognition of her true value as both a veteran and a potential contributor to civilian society. The first challenge was addressing Elena's immediate medical needs. Years of homelessness had taken a severe toll on her physical health, and untreated stress-related conditions had developed into chronic problems that were preventing her from maintaining steady employment. General Martinez used his military medical contacts to arrange comprehensive health assessments and treatment plans that addressed both her physical ailments and the psychological trauma associated with her discharge and subsequent homelessness. The medical evaluation revealed several serious conditions that had gone untreated for years, Martinez explained to the caseworker assigned to Elena's rehabilitation. Malnutrition, respiratory problems from sleeping outdoors, and stress-related cardiovascular issues. She needs intensive medical intervention before she can successfully participate in employment programs. While Elena was receiving medical treatment, Martinez began the more complex task of rebuilding her professional reputation and creating opportunities for her eventual return to meaningful work. He started by documenting the true circumstances of her military service and discharge, creating a comprehensive record that told her story accurately rather than relying on the misleading bureaucratic language in her official discharge paperwork. Martinez contacted every officer who had served with Elena during their deployment, gathering testimonials about her character, capabilities, and the heroic actions she had taken in Kabul. He compiled mission reports, commendation letters, and performance evaluations that demonstrated Elena's exceptional service record prior to the investigation that had destroyed her career. "I want potential employers to understand exactly who Elena Vásquez is and what she's capable of," Martinez told his adjutant. "Too many people are making decisions based on incomplete information about her discharge without understanding the context." More importantly, Martinez began telling Elena's story to influential people within both military and civilian communities. He spoke at veteran service organization meetings, corporate security conferences, and community events, ensuring that Elena's heroic actions in Kabul became widely known and properly recognized. His efforts began to generate interest from several different sources. A documentary filmmaker wanted to tell Elena's story as part of a larger project about veteran issues. A private security company specializing in high-risk environments expressed interest in Elena's tactical expertise. Most significantly, a nonprofit organization focused on veteran rehabilitation offered to make Elena's case a model for their expanded support programs. General Martinez, what you're describing sounds like exactly the kind of veteran we should be helping, said Dr. Sarah Williams, director of the Veterans Recovery Initiative. Someone with exceptional military service who fell through the cracks due to bureaucratic failures, rather than personal shortcomings. Elena's recovery process was neither quick nor easy. The medical treatment required several months, and the psychological adjustment to having stable housing and support systems took additional time. She struggled with feelings of shame about her circumstances and difficulty trusting that her improved situation would be permanent. But she also demonstrated the same determination, tactical thinking, and resilience that had made her an exceptional special operations warrior. As her health improved and her confidence returned, glimpses of her former capabilities became increasingly evident. Elena has been attending every medical appointment, participating actively in counseling sessions, and using her housing assistance responsibly, reported Janet Morrison, her primary caseworker. She's also been volunteering with other homeless veterans, using her experience to help them navigate available services. Elena's volunteer work revealed another dimension of her character that impressed everyone involved in her recovery. She had a natural ability to connect with veterans who were struggling with similar problems, and her own experience gave her credibility that professional counselors couldn't match. She has a unique talent for reaching veterans who have given up on getting help, Morrison continued. Her tactical approach to problem-solving translates well to helping people navigate bureaucratic systems and overcome obstacles to accessing services. Within 18 months of Martinez's intervention, Elena had regained her health, found stable housing, and begun working part-time as a peer counselor for veteran services. Her income was modest, but it provided the foundation for financial stability and personal independence that she needed to continue rebuilding her life. The transformation was remarkable, but not complete. Elena's ultimate goal was to return to the kind of meaningful work that utilized her tactical expertise and leadership capabilities. Martinez continued working to create opportunities that would allow her to apply her special operations background to civilian security challenges. The breakthrough came when Elena was approached by Apex Security Solutions, a private firm that specialized in protecting corporate executives and facilities in high-threat environments. The company's founder, Marcus Chen, was a former Navy SEAL who understood the value of Elena's tactical background and wasn't concerned about the circumstances of her discharge. General Martinez showed me the documentation about what really happened in Kabul, Chen explained. Someone who can neutralize 10 armed terrorists to save civilian lives is exactly the kind of person we need for our most challenging assignments. Elena's interview with Apex Security revealed that her tactical skills and operational expertise remained sharp despite her years away from professional security work. Her analysis of hypothetical threat scenarios demonstrated the same strategic thinking and creative problem-solving that had made her legendary within special operations circles. Ms. Vásquez, we're prepared to offer you a position as a senior security consultant with responsibilities for training our personnel and leading high-risk protection assignments, Chen announced. Your starting salary will be commensurate with your experience and the specialized nature of your expertise. 2 years after her appearance at General Martinez's base gate, Elena was hired as Director of Operations for Apex Security Solutions, responsible for managing a team of protection specialists who provided security for high-risk assignments worldwide. Her military experience and exceptional tactical skills had found their proper application in civilian security work that was both financially rewarding and professionally fulfilling. Her career had returned to the kind of protective missions that had originally defined her military service, but in a context that valued her capabilities rather than punishing them for political reasons. General Martinez attended Elena's promotion ceremony at Apex Security, where she received recognition as the company's most skilled and innovative security professional. During his speech, he told the audience about the Kabul marketplace and about the operator who had risked everything to save innocent lives. Ladies and gentlemen, Elena Vásquez didn't just prevent a massacre 12 years ago. She demonstrated that true heroism means serving others even when the system fails to recognize the value of that service. Today, she's proof that exceptional people can overcome any obstacle when they receive the support and recognition they deserve. Elena's response was characteristically focused on the future rather than the past, but she also acknowledged the role that Martinez's intervention had played in her recovery. General Martinez saved my life by remembering that past service matters when evaluating someone's potential. He taught me that heroic actions create obligations that extend beyond the moment when they occur. I hope to spend the rest of my career proving that his faith was justified. Today, Elena Vásquez serves as Chief Operating Officer for Apex Security Solutions, commanding a team of protection specialists who provide security for corporate clients operating in challenging environments worldwide. Her military experience and exceptional tactical skills continue to save lives in civilian security situations, and her success has become a model for other veterans seeking to transition from military to civilian careers. General Martinez remains one of her closest friends and strongest advocates, frequently speaking about the importance of supporting veterans who have fallen on difficult times and ensuring that heroic service is never forgotten or abandoned. Their friendship has deepened beyond their original military relationship, based on mutual respect for each other's character and shared commitment to helping other veterans succeed. Elena's story has become a model for veteran recovery programs across the country, demonstrating that even the most challenging circumstances can be overcome when appropriate support combines with individual determination and recognition that past service provides the foundation for future contributions. Her success has also led to policy changes within military discharge procedures, ensuring that future cases involving tactical decisions made under combat conditions receive more appropriate review by officers with relevant experience rather than administrative personnel without operational backgrounds. Most importantly, Elena's recovery has enabled her to help other veterans who are struggling with similar challenges. She serves on the board of directors for several veteran service organizations and has developed innovative programs that help former special operations personnel transition to civilian careers that utilize their specialized skills. The lesson I learned from my own experience, Elena explains to veterans she counsels, is that our value as people isn't determined by our current circumstances. It's determined by our capabilities, our character, and our willingness to keep serving others even when the system fails to serve us. General Martinez often reflects on the larger implications of Elena's story when he speaks at military leadership conferences and veteran service events. Have you ever encountered someone whose current circumstances didn't reflect their true capabilities or past achievements? Elena's story reminds us that heroism can be hidden by hardship, and some of our most valuable citizens may be invisible until someone takes time to look beyond appearances. The general who barely noticed a homeless woman at his base gate learned that some people carry their service with them long after their uniforms are gone, waiting for someone to remember that heroic actions create obligations extending far beyond the moment when they occur. Elena's transformation from homeless veteran to successful security executive demonstrates that with appropriate support and recognition, even the most exceptional service members can overcome institutional failures and bureaucratic injustices to rebuild meaningful and productive lives. Her story serves as both inspiration and instruction for military leaders, veteran service providers, and anyone who encounters former service members struggling with the transition from military to civilian life. It reminds us that behind every homeless veteran may be someone whose service deserves recognition and whose capabilities deserve opportunity rather than abandonment. If you believe that heroic service deserves lifelong recognition and support, Elena's story provides a roadmap for transforming good intentions into effective action. Because somewhere, a veteran who once saved lives is waiting for help, not knowing that their moment to be remembered and honored might depend on someone recognizing that true heroes never stop being heroes, even when the world stops recognizing their worth. Elena Vásquez didn't just save lives during Operation Thunder Ridge 12 years ago in Kabul. She proved that some debts can only be repaid by ensuring that heroic service is never forgotten, and that those who serve others deserve to be served in return when their own lives need saving.